networking tools. Now, one of the most common networking tools is a network crimper. And this is a simple one for using with an RJ45 connector. Put the RJ45 connector in, the cable in it, insert it in here, touches the back, it's held in place, and you just squeeze. And sometimes you got to squeeze like that, and the little thing on the back pushes it in, holding the cable in place and assuring proper contact of the wires to the RJ45 connector. Now this was a simple one. One in the top left there, one that's a little more advanced, also works with an RJ11, not just an RJ45. They also make ones for fiber and coax as well. And speaking of coax, you put that BNC connector on thin coax, well, you need something to squeeze where it says crimp there. You put the crimper there, and it just literally squeezes it. And that holds on the BNC connector to the cable. And you have the wire coming out, and there may be a little ding in the wire where it was crimped, where it's cut, where it's broken. So some twisted pair, you can see how it's used there. That's using a standard RJ45. Make your cable. And when you make the cable, you don't want any more than 2/5 of an inch, roughly 1 centimeter beyond the outer jacket free. Now, to be perfectly honest, you're probably going to take about a whole inch of the outer jacket off. And then you're going to line up the wires, straighten them, get them in the right order. And once you have them straightened out, straighten them all the way back to the jacket and then cut to about the 2/5 of an inch mark, the 1 centimeter mark. And then insert it into the RJ45 jack. When it's inserted properly, put it into the crimper. When it's in the crimper, it goes right in. And then you squeeze the crimper, and that causes it to hold the jacket snug while also pushing the connectors in the RJ45 onto the wires of the cable itself, allowing for good connectivity. A punch down tool. Now, we use a connection like this going to the computer. We have a connection like this coming where this plugs into the wall. But from the wall back to the server room. Get to the server room, you're not using a connection like this. You've got bare wires instead. And those wires are pushed down into a wiring panel. Maybe a 110 block or 66 block. And use the punch down tool where you take the wire, line it up, and you hit the back of it, and it locks it into place between the little clips that move like this. The wire is then caught by them, and it's held in place. And the one you see on the left is for doing all the wires at once, not just a single wire. Now, using that punch down tool, insert the wire between the two metal blades on the punch down block. There's one wire per contact, and that's probably a 110 block in most cases. Place the punch down tool on top of the wire. Make sure you're the right side up. Apply pressure to the wire until you hear a snap. That snaps in the spring mechanism inside the tool. To be honest, 99% of the time when I see it, someone taps the back, a pretty sound tap, and that does the job. Now, a cable tester, and here's a simple little cable tester, not all that dissimilar than you see in the slide. You want to make sure that your cables actually work. Well, I have a little problem with making cables. I'm unfortunately colorblind. You know how many times I've made cables? Let me turn this on, and as you can see, it's going, hey, I don't see any cable. So let me plug this cable in, just like this, and it goes down, which means someone else made this cable and not me. Because if I made it, all of a sudden we'd see them not match. We'd see different locations because I'd get the colors mixed up. Usually what happens, I find out I made a mistake, I take one side out, cut off the end, make a new end, put it in. Turns out it's the same problem, means I just fixed the wrong side, and I have to do the other one then. But I don't think I'd ever make a good cable without a proper cable tester to let me know that it is lined up all the way down. Very handy tool. And this one can do not just the RJ45, but can also do an RJ11 just for standard telephone jacks as well, which I don't think I've ever used that side, but I have used the RJ45 side more than a few times. Now you want to do some physical cable tests. Locate incorrectly wired cables. Standard cable tester can be used for that. Nope, maybe go out to the server room, connect this to the patch panel there, and this to where it comes out at the network jack of the person's computer, and it's going to read what's going between. If anything's miswired, it's going to become obvious. Locate missing cable. Well, to locate a missing cable, maybe in a punch-down panel, use something called a toner. You're going to see that coming up, I believe, in about 2 slides. Locating cables that don't support your network type, you use a cable certifier for that. Look for maybe a Cat3 cable where a Cat5 should have been used. Doesn't have enough wires for carrying the data, or it's not of a high enough grade to carry the speed. So cable certifier can be used to validate a category of the cable. You might want to test hub connections or PC connections. Toner can be used for that. Cable testers can be used. Testing the installed cable, same thing. Testing patch cables, that's simple cable tester. Locating and tracing inactive cables, a toner is probably going to be used. You know, let me mention something else on cable tests. Sometimes you have a cable with a break in it, and you don't know where that break is. You've got a 50-meter cable, that's 150 foot roughly, and it's not working. Well, you decide you want to keep the cable and maybe just cut off the side. That's bad. Where's the break? There's something called a time domain reflectometer, or TDR. You connect the cable to it, it puts a signal on it, the signal will bounce back at the break, and based upon how long it takes a signal to return, and trust me, this is, for us it seems instantaneous, but the device is quick enough to be able to tell the difference between the speed of light over a few inches versus a few meters. So it can tell you where the break is. You find the break, you cut the cable there, and you can put new ends on at that point, and you now have a good cable. That's a TDR. They do make them for optical as well. That would be an OTDR, optical time domain reflectometer.